Welcome to the Reach the Stars podcast, a collection of conversations with cool people who do cool things. Brought to you by Papercraft Miracles. Each week, we'll bring you inspiring stories of persistence, passion, and purpose. With your host, Jonna Willoughby Lohr.
Welcome to the Reach the Stars podcast. I am your host, Jonna Willoughby Lohr. And today, my guest is Dr. Robb Kelly. He is pretty much this forerunner in the field of recovery and has done all sorts of amazing things to help people in the field of recovery and has had a super interesting life. And I'm very excited for him to share his life and his experience with all of us. So, Dr. Robb, why don't you take it away and tell us a little bit more about you?
Hi, guys. My name is Dr. Robb Kelly, the addiction doctor. Despite the accent, guys, I am in San Antonio, Texas. I've been in Texas for about 15 years. I came over for 2 weeks only, and I came over to speak to a church in Dallas, Texas, Plano to be more direct, and I just never went home. So what we do here at Robb Kelly Recovery Group is we put families back together, heal trauma, and deal with alcohol and drug addiction. We use neuroscience. We're not into the old counseling or therapy stuff. We're new science all the time. Neuroplasticity and behavior of body, central nervous system is what we're about. We have a 97% success rate. Impossible, I know, right? We have records going back 10, 15 years. I think everyone brags about 6 or 7% success rate, but we're really serious about what we do. And the reason why we are is I'm a chronic alcoholic. I lost the house, the wives, the kids, the cars, the holiday home, my mind, my parents, and ended up homeless on the streets. I was there for just over a year, 14 months. And I swore that if I ever got off the streets, and only 3% got off the streets in Manchester, England, where I come from, the rest die on the street. So unbelievable journey so far, but I'm spending the rest of my life from that moment onwards, working with families and alcoholics, addicts, trauma victims, not necessarily, 3 of my patients now, I only take on 4 at any one time, and non-alcoholic or non-drug addiction. They're all trauma from the past, because trauma is the gateway drug.
Yeah, seriously. So I was wondering if you would tell people a little bit more about, obviously you just said that you got into this because of your own personal experience. But when you were on the street kind of by yourself without somebody pulling you out of this, what was there like a single moment or something that kind of flipped the switch that changed it for you? And
100%. I've been on the streets, and you got to imagine Manchester, England, nighttime, center of Piccadilly Gardens, which is the center of Manchester, is a very dangerous place to be, or was. So I've been on the streets for 14 months. I tried suicide 7 times, and on 2 occasions, I actually was pronounced dead, and they brought me back to life. Hated them guys for that, by the way, guys, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, I was distraught. I was sad, and the abandonment was rife. I still suffer from that today. All that work I've been doing on it, and I still suffer today from it, because I was left on my own. Parents didn't want to know. Wife left, took the children. It was just absolutely horrible feeling, that pits feeling that you're not wanted by anybody. And after about 14 months, I remember walking down the factories at the back of Manchester where the business is only, there's no people there. And I was walking down there 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It was pouring down with rain. I dropped down to my hands and knees, and I started to cry like a baby. Wasn't crying because I'd lost my 2 young babies. I wasn't crying because I lost my wife, houses, money, everything like that. I was crying because the first time in my life I realized I couldn't stop drinking. I remember on my hands and knees, I remember looking up to the sky as an atheist, and I said, if there's a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. And I continued crying. And about 30 seconds later, this guy appeared from around the corner. He was holding a little Bible. He'd missed his last person from Bible study, so he'd been walking about an hour or something. Came across me at a quick, he wanted to cross the back end because it was quicker. Never been there before. and he came up to me and he said, "You need help?" And I said, "Yes, I'm an alcoholic and I'm going to die." And he says, "I'm in recovery. You can come back to my house." And that's where my journey started.
Wow. That's intense. Are you still in contact with that guy today?
I'm not. I don't know where Derek is. If you happen to be listening to this when it goes out, then awesome. But yeah, Derek was his name. But then he introduced me, not directly, but he said if I could stay at the house, I have to go to these 12-step meetings. And I hated them meetings. So then I met a guy at that meeting, that second night I was there at Derek's, and his name was John. And he told me to come to his house every Wednesday for 12 weeks at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, I can't remember. And I went to that man's house every day for 12 weeks at 8 o'clock. No, 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night. So 7 p.m. for 12 weeks. Took him through some stuff, told me about God, told me about philosophy, told me about alcoholism. When I left that man's house, I knew that I'd changed. And because he told me things would change from tomorrow, which he did. Despite being in this guy's house in the basement on a blow-up mattress, a job was offered to me through Derek, and I took it. So I went back to see him a couple of weeks later, bought him a little teddy bear and a card, and there was nobody there. When I knocked on the neighbors' doors, they'd never heard of him. No one's been in that apartment. The apartment was unsafe. It was derelict. You can't go in it. Went back to the meeting. I asked people, "Do you remember me and John speaking near the coffee machine?" And the answer was, "No, Rob. Remember you talking to yourself over near the coffee machine." And we've never found that man since.
What?
I know. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy, you know. But I know he told me back in England many years ago that I will be brought away from my home, placed in a different, I don't know if it's a continent or different country, I can't remember. But so it was true. By freak accident, I was on the old chat, 15 years ago, and the chat was just invented. So it's crazy, But I met a girl online. She'd gone through something similar, and the church was looking for somebody to work with a youth ministry. And they paid for me to go over for 2 weeks, and off I went. So everything was kind of fell into place for me. There's no such thing as coincidences today. After 30 odd years I've been doing this, and 8,000 patients on, there's no such thing as coincidences. And that's just the way it is, So we all want to get down. We all want to get complacent, If you're at home now, listen to this, and you're sad and you're lonely and you have an alcohol, drug, trauma, whatever it is, depression problem, especially alcohol and drugs, you feel like you'll never amount to anything, I want to apologize to you because somebody's put that there. We are born with $1 million minds, but we tend to hang around 10-cent minds. And this is what people are suffering from today. Is our dreams and our aspirations as children were kicked out of us by family and friends. That was stupid. You can't be an astronaut. That's ridiculous. Well, that's gone. I might as well go and work a 9 to 5 and the gas company, So It's just, you can literally have anything you want in life. To study a little bit of quantum physics, you'll realize there's nothing real, nothing solid. It's out there for the taking. I mean, my comeback story alone should be enough for you to realize no matter what situation you're in, you can come back from that. And there is recovery after depression, after trauma, after alcohol, drugs, cake, food, porn, sex, whatever it may be. There's a bright world out there, and you can fully recover from the bullshit you're going through.
Oh, I love that. I'm still stuck on the fact that this guy wasn't really there. I love the idea. If I ever ascribe to any religion at all, I would call it weird shit. I believe in weird shit. Yeah. There are things out there that really cannot be explained, that happen, that the energy of the world shows up in certain ways at certain times, and you may not see the reason for said thing. But things happen to put things in place a lot of times. And I'm not trying to be one of those like everything happens for a reason kind of people, because that's also bullshit. But I think I'm so hooked on that idea that, that those experiences show up and the energy combines to bring certain people or the vision of certain people. they show up when you need them to. And I think a lot of times people who feel like nothing good ever comes for them, or that only the bad things show up for them, are kind of willfully ignoring those signs when they show up.
If you concentrate on the bad things in your life, bad things are going to happen. If you concentrate on what you could be and start acting as if it already is going to come. The mind is a separate entity to the brain. A lot of people don't know this. So the brain is energy. The brain is power. You can't see it. You can't feel it. You can't touch it. You can't anything like it. It sits inside the brain. But once we make our mind up to do something, then it spreads into the brain energy. Then the neural pathways can be redirected. We rewire the brain so that you become successful. Every neural pathway inside everybody's head, there are neural pathways to wealth, to health, to success. And all we're going to do is connect them. That's what we specialize in. We connect neural pathways into good neural pathways. But many people through their lives allow people to talk down to them. We allow stuff to happen, shit happen to us, and we just take it, especially when we've come off a bender with alcohol. We get talked down to, and we just think we cower in the corner. It's like, no, enough of that shit. Enough of it. You know, you have a disease, you are depressed, you have trauma, whatever it is, get your head held up high and start thinking what you could do, how you could remold your life. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about anybody. If you're suffering, sat in a one-bedroom apartment somewhere, thinking that you never amount to anything, while you're messing around in that apartment, people are dying. They need you to get out. Everybody needs leaders in today's world. So get your shit together. Call me if need be. I'll give you a 10-minute pep talk that'll boost you on your way. It's like we don't realize how powerful we are. We really don't. And most people out there today, especially after COVID, you've lost your identity. I get this with couples all the time. The women lose their identity because they sort of lock into what the boyfriend or husband does. Like all of a sudden she's watching football, then they're going out with his friends. And all of a sudden, when they split up, the woman's left with no identity. She has no idea who she is. We would repair all that stuff. Anybody. So let's say, look, quantum physics tells us, like me, I can be on a basketball court 25 places at the same time because nothing's really solid. So I visualize the 25 places on that basketball court. Where do I want to be? Well, I want to be a hero. So I want to be near the goal. I get the ball, I put it in the net, and I become the hero of that game. Well, how do I get there? And this is the answer, guys. You walk over and you take that position. You don't beg for it. You don't crawl for it. It's yours. Walk over and take the position. But most people think that's rubbish. I can't do that. That surely can't be real. Walk over and take that position. How bad do you want this? How bad do you want to live life? Because last night I went to bed. I was 19 years old. I got up today. I'm 61. That's how fast life goes. And everybody we interviewed, from friends and relatives on the deathbed, we were allowed to go around and ask them one question. What's the one thing you regret most of all in life? And 99% of them people said, I thought I had more time. We don't have more time, okay? So go and buy that car, go and date that girl, go and buy the house, get that job, start your own business, do it now. Okay, because you're never going to be ready and you're never going to think you're good enough. Never. Whenever most people in today's world never think they're tall enough, blonde enough, thin enough, or rich enough. You know, because they always look at what the internal dialogue tells us from learned behavior from caregivers. So if I'm a piece of crap at home, then that's what I think. That's my core belief. If I'm brought up in a household where they're high achievers, that's my core belief that I'm a high achiever. But we listen to the negative all the time. You know, get a bunch of positive stuff, and one person can say you are terrible, you're rubbish, you know, you're a waste of time, you can't do it. And we cling on to that because it's our comfort zone from our caregivers. We're getting that comfort zone. Most people are scared of success, and they're also scared of failure. And we need to get out of that thinking and reach for the stars. I mean, literally. I mean, there was a woman in Manchester, England, many years ago, late 70s, I think. She snatched her off the side of the road, 16-year-old schoolgirl, blonde hair, blue eyes, the papers and the news and the police. It was a manhunt across Britain, and they couldn't find her. 9 months later, a police car's following another car down a country road, and his signal light was broken. So he pulled him over, searched his car, found a stolen screwdriver. Back in the day, no search warrants. You'd have to go back to the house and see what else is stolen. And sure enough, there was lawnmowers, there were drills, there was everything you can imagine. And they were obviously going to arrest him, but they saw a huge box in the corner, 4 foot high by 12 foot wide. And they said, there's some expensive stuff in there. We know there is. And he denied knowing about the box. So they smashed the lock off. They opened the box, and there was that 16-year-old girl that was snatched 8-9 months ago. He used to take her out every day, sexually abuse her, restroom, food, and put her back in several times a day for 9 months. When they opened the lid, she was alive. She was battered and bruised, but she was alive. The police woman reached over, took her by the hand, and she stepped out of the box. The police woman took her coat off and put it around this girl. Guys at home, what do you first thing you think she did? She got back in the box. Because that's how our mind has been trained. That even though we go through this shit, we go through this bullshit, that it's never going to amount to anything, we're always going to go back to the pain because it's a comfort zone, to the no confidence because it's a comfort zone. You need to smash that box to smithereens so you can't put it back together again. And that's how most people live their lives. It's like, I bet you, we have a routine in the morning that changed people's minds. No such thing as bad days, guys. There's better days than others. No such thing as bad days. There's always a way out, and everything's temporary.
Oh, we should just end the show right there. What is so good? No, we're not going to do that. Man, when I was doing the show every single week, getting to have these like intentional but intense conversations with people, really was my number one bridge to the outside world during COVID. I don't know if it's pretty obvious, but I am definitely an extroverted person. I am an oversharer. I think I love to tell anyone and everyone any life story that I have, in hopes that something I've been through can be something that helps other people. And man, I needed to talk to you today.
I know. Well, listen, I have this saying, and the guys who know, and you'll know this, nobody sits in front of me by mistake. And that's not ego. My ego went when they took my children off me, ages 1 and 3. This is confidence over 30 odd years. And, everything happens when it's ready to happen. And, I just love it. I mean, the work I do with the addiction stuff I do, really, alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism. The same with drugs, food, sex, porn, whatever. This is about realizing who you are. So we did this test once, Joanna. Listen to this. We did a test with 1,000 fleas, and we put them in a huge mason jar. We put them in, we emptied them out, and we put the lid on top. We screwed it, and we punched holes inside the lid. We left them there for 3 days. Now, we know that fleas can jump 3 or 4 feet. After 3 days, we took the cap off. Not one flea jumped higher than where the cap was, which is interesting enough. But what was mind-blowing was when they had babies inside that jar, the babies wouldn't jump higher than where the lid was, and they'd never seen the lid. So when we go back again to our caregivers, we tend to go to the level that they've brought us to. But, you need to take the brakes off your imagination. If you want it bad enough, you can do it. With what we do, Joanna, what we do now, it becomes very lonely sometimes. And very few people come, oh, do you know what? You're amazing at what you do. Nobody says that to us. Nobody. Oh, they already know. We don't know. We don't know unless you tell us. So at that level, we've got to be strong. We've got to be guided. We've got to be positive to make sure things happen every single day. Because every day is a new day. When I used to wake up in the morning drunk and hungover and go, oh, God, it's morning. Now I get up and go, morning, God. I have that spiritual being because of my mind. It has to be. I'm a spiritual guide. I'm a spiritual guy. I'm not a go-to-church guy, because here's my deal. I died twice on the street. Somebody brought me back. But I don't think it's the God that needs me in a church on a Sunday morning at 10 a.m. to hear me. I just don't. I really don't. But when you get a connection, God, universe, Uncle Jimmy, Mom, Dad, whatever it is, the energy will connect. And if you focus and really know, if you come to somebody like Huzu, who directs, remolds the brain, hails the central nervous system, and clears up the trauma, uncover, discover, discard of that stuff that's killing you today. Because what happened when you was a child and what you're doing now, you will never see the correlation. You will never see it. But that's what happens. And the easiest one to explain, these girls come to me all the time. I keep attracting these men who are drunk and in violence. And I go, what's your mom and dad's relationship like? Oh my God. Because if the house, we see violence as a child with mom and dad, and mom beats, dad meets mom up and he's had a few drinks once or twice a week, and we go through, that becomes the norm, get back in the box. So when we have relationships, if we meet a nice guy with a nice family, you'll self-sabotage that if you've not done your trauma work, because that's uncomfortable. You'll go into the marriage that's just the same back, get back in the box, because it seems comfortable. That's no way to live life, guys. No way to live life.
Oh, it's so wild. Because since, I mean, obviously, we just met each other today, right? You know, virtually today. So the way I grew up was really wild. My parents were married to other people when I was born. So I was like the oops baby in the middle of two people who were either separated or getting divorced and like not doing well. And there were already children involved on both sides. And in a situation that could have been really bad for me as a baby, like could have been the baby that nobody wanted. I really lucked out and I became the baby that everybody wanted. So the guy that my mom was married to put his name on my birth certificate as my dad, even though he knew I wasn't his kid. And then my biological dad showed up at the hospital on the day I was born saying, hey, where's my kid? Even though he hadn't really been around while my mom was pregnant. And everybody ended up getting divorced. But even when everybody except for my birth mother, everybody, you know, my two dads got together with other women for the bulk of the rest of their lives. Those women became my stepmothers too. So I grew up from when I was about 2 years old with 5 regular parents, two couples that were married and then living with my mom as a single mom. And the bulk of my experience as a kid was living with my mom, where she was very proud, very broke. And now that I have found out that I have ADHD, and I'm totally realizing that she had undiagnosed ADHD like forever and had horrible executive dysfunction and was horrible at adulting. Growing up in that environment most of the time, but then getting to like see how these other relationships were working or not working on the weekend. But I lived in 3 different houses every single week. And I was like this everybody's part-time kid.
Yeah.
And throughout all of the marriages, and when people got back together with other, you know, got together with new people and had more kids or adopted more kids. I have 7 brothers and sisters, but I'm an only child. It's really weird. And like growing up in, you know, my mom was a hoarder, which I didn't realize was a thing until I watched that show Hoarders and had horrible panic attacks and realized like that was the childhood I grew up in a house where I wasn't really allowed. I had 2 friends who were allowed to come over because I knew they wouldn't tell their parents what my house was like. Yeah. And so like I grew up in that environment with, you know, my main caregiver was somebody who had this huge personality. I mean, there was 300 people at her funeral. She touched so many people with her life, but had so few people in her life who really knew who she was, who were there to help her out. And she hid all of her problems from everyone. And would never even ask her parents for help with money or anything when they totally could have helped her, and made us live this childhood in poverty. And we had no water in our house for an entire winter because she was too proud to ask someone to help her fix her water main. And then I would go to my dad's house on the weekend and go skiing.
Yeah. Wow.
So odd to grow up, but it taught me a lot about how different people operate and how different relationships can lead to different outcomes. And, you know, there was one house where I learned how to clean because my one stepmom was great at cleaning. So I knew all about like how to keep a house clean and how to organize files and all those things that I would not have learned if I only had one parent. And I am realizing now more as an adult that, I grew out of all of these failed marriages. And I never really knew what it was like to have a mom and a dad who had been together, just the two of them, and all their kids were their kids without any of that, kind of being the floater kid. And I remember thinking as a kid that I was very grateful to have any of these people in my life. And so I would kind of take whatever scraps were there. And when I would go to my dad's house, like, I didn't have a room. My bed was a mattress underneath my sister's bed, and she had a room at their house. And my older brother, we have the same mom, but not the same dad. He was very resentful of the fact that he would go to his dad's house and he didn't have a room there. But I was like, but they want us to come there. You know what I mean? And like, I would see it as, look at these people who care about us enough to make room for us somehow. And he was like, look at this dad who doesn't give me a room when he takes on these new kids and gives them a room. Like, he had a totally different perspective on it than I did. And just growing up, obviously, and you were saying, like, women come to you and say, why do I keep picking the wrong guy? Why do we keep picking the wrong guy? And I was like, I was that woman for a very long time and kept picking the wrong guy, kept picking people who needed saving because I wanted to feel needed. I wanted to feel like I wasn't an extra person and I had to prove that I was worth keeping around. And then I met my husband, who is like, I guess if you could write a book about like the least messed up person, that's him, right? Nobody's perfect, but his parents have been married to each other their whole entire lives. All their kids are their kids. He's never had like horrible traumatic things happen to him. He's never even had a hangover. He's never had his heart broken. And somebody like me who has all of these like crazy, unsteady childhood things and constantly being shuffled around and dealing with like a lot, to get together with this guy who seems like, the perfect guy. I still, even after being married for 11 years, every single day, I'm like, why does he keep me around? Like, I'm so damaged and he's so not, it's very hard for me to trust that.
Yeah, definitely.
There and not to self-sabotage, which is exactly what you were saying. And I was like, I have to fight against that like every day, not to like make waves where there aren't any. Yeah.
That's the abandonment, the fear and the trust from where you've come from. There's a lot of great things, but there's some things we carry from that. That's why you went through different boyfriends and relationships that never worked, is because of all that stuff. And that's what people doesn't realize is, it's not what you're doing today. It's what you did as a child. Childhood trauma kills more people than anything else, but it's not mentioned. Drug addiction comes from childhood trauma. Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. Alcoholism is a predisposition. It's passed down from generation to generation. If you're out there wondering if you're an alcoholic or not, because it's the only self-diagnosed illness in the world, trace your family back 3 generations. If there's no alcoholism in there, you probably abused alcohol, but there's still trauma as you grow up. So trauma, like I said before, the gateway drug. Once we continue to work on that, we go back and we work all that stuff out. We call it back to the scene of the crimes, and we work all that out. You are freed of all that stuff, and you realize who you are. We've worked with some of the biggest names in the world, from all sorts of different things, from business to sports to movie stars to road cleaners. I mean, it makes no difference. But once you get that cleared up, that's what it's about. We don't like to call ourselves an addiction company. We specialize in putting families back together again. And we specialize in recreating the person that you need to be. Sometimes not even want to be, need to be. It's because of all of experience. My homelessness, loss of children. The last thing my 3-year-old said to me was, Daddy, please stop drinking. And I couldn't do it as the police took him away from me. I couldn't do it, So the trauma from that was phenomenal. Every night I used to see her walking down the path. She said 3 things, holding mommy's hand. She said, Daddy, please don't go. Daddy, please get better. And the last thing she says was, Daddy, please stop drinking. huge trauma. I didn't know it was trauma at the time. I just thought, I'm going through a bad spell. Even when I was homeless, it's like, it's not trauma. I was going through a bad spell. Then when you go back and you pick all that trauma up, you can literally, like, you could come to me and go, oh, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And I can tell you right now, without you saying a word, what your life is today. I can almost guarantee I'll tell you about your job if you spend enough time with me, and how many failed relationships or good relationships that you're in, how many children you have. All that is defined as we go through childhood. What we see is how we feel most of the time, and it's very important that everybody knows this. Education about trauma and success, people keep that down. They don't like to talk about it too much. Half the world doesn't believe it. Well, not me. I was homeless to one of the best addiction doctors in the world. Are you kidding me? How the hell did that happen? Writing for Harvard University, well, the hospital next to Harvard University, the psychiatric. How does that happen? There's an energy that's connected to somebody that took me to where I am today. But, and here's the but, could I change anything about what happened? No, I can't, because it's made me the person I am. So therefore, all the trauma I've been through, once dealt with, becomes my greatest asset going forward. Because now they go, what do you know, doctor? I look at you in your big house. I've seen the car you drive. What do you know about homelessness? Let me sit down and talk. What do you know about being battered on the, let me dig down. Losing your kid. It's like everything I've covered to go to somebody else and go, if I can do it, you can do it. And I know the way out, follow me. And that's what it's about today. I compliment 3 people every time I leave the house. I also have been blessed monetary. So every time we leave the house, I bless someone monetary. It can be anything from $5 to $500, depending what people are going through. Because if you don't think that your little comment to another person, because my wife doesn't matter, I just said, have a nice day. No, let me tell you 2 stories. One about the shoes. If you walk out into any built-up area with people, see somebody with nice sneakers. Sneakers are the best. Go up and say, hey, man, nice sneakers. And walk past him. They go, hey, thank you, man. Then watch him walk away. He will look down at his shoes 2 or 3 times as he's walking away. Now, he's in a good mood. He goes on to the wife or girlfriend. She's in a good mood because he's in a good mood. And then the mother-in-law calls. The wife's in a great mood. And it just ripples on. And when we don't do this, this is some of the things that happen. There's a guy wanting to throw himself off the Golden Gate Bridge. So he left his apartment. He walked a mile to the bridge. He got on the bridge and he killed himself. He threw himself off and he died. And the police fished him out, found out who he was, went back to the apartment to search his apartment for a suicide note. And sure enough, they found one. And at the end of the note, the note itself read, I'm going to paraphrase, but I'm sure it's near true. I'm going to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge and throw myself off to commit suicide unless somebody says, hello, hey, how are you? Somebody acknowledges me. I'm going to turn back and come back home again. Nobody did. So you see how important our communication is to another human being. When I say thank you to somebody or compliment somebody, dopamine is released into my brain. It's one of the 4 chemicals I need every day to be happy. These little tiny acts of kindness. And some people don't want to know. They walk past you miserable. They're going through something that you could never imagine. Every time somebody says something nasty to us, it's got nothing to do with us. It's all about what that person is going through. Everybody goes through something. Everybody has trauma they're getting over. Everybody has their own problems every single day. When me and my wife got married 8 years ago, she'd been married once, I'd been married twice before. And we had an argument on the 2nd or 3rd day. And I said something, she said something, and I snapped, and she went, well, that's the way marriage is supposed to be. And I snapped back, says who? You see, I don't like these rules that people are putting on us. So we made our own rules for marriage. I'm surprised, usually she'll come in and throw a sock at me, especially when I'm on live TV. We mess, we laugh, we joke, we've built our own relationship. Start building your own life, guys out there. You can do it. Surround yourself with people that are going to build you up and not rip you down. Be careful who you mess with, and just keep thinking that you can do anything you want in the world. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. It's very, very important. If you're on 30 grand a year and want to earn 50, start hanging around the guys that earn $50,000 a year and you will be the same. If you don't believe me, listen, Have you ever hung around with a friend and they have a saying or something? I had a girlfriend, BFF. She's not, she's a girl friend. And she used to go, shut up. I hated that when she said that, but I never said anything. Shut up. And then one day I said it. And I'm like, oh my God, learn behavior from people around us. If you hung around successful people, you will, whether you like it or not, become a successful person. Enmeshment. Parents can pass down depression and all sorts of stuff. It's called enmeshment. And then they learn behavior from how our parents learn. That's how we learn to walk, eat, laugh, do everything that we see through our parents or caregivers. So if you've brought up in a home that's dysfunctional, you're going to look for dysfunctional relationships. Mm-hmm. We need to get out of that situation.
Exactly. I love that you talked about leaving your house on a mission to give three random compliments a day. Because I also like wholeheartedly believe that you never know the moment that is going to be the moment that changes somebody else's life. Yeah. Like you never know what conversation is that conversation for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I started my business called Papercraft Miracles. I started it when I was in college after my mom passed away, leaving me as a 20-year-old homeowner to a house that was falling apart 5 states away. And wow. Going to college, trying to be a professional artist. And I didn't know what to do the next day. And I started making all of these artist books that at the time I didn't realize that I was doing my own form of art therapy, but I was. And I was making these books to kind of figure out a way to show the experience that I was having in a way that I could tell it to other people, because dealing with people who are grieving is super awkward, right? Like people, they're like, here's a card, they're there, here's a casserole. I don't really know what to do. I feel better about myself because I did something, right? So I started making these artworks, these books that had poetry and images and stuff in them. And then I was showing them and telling people, like doing kind of show and tell type of thing about my experiences. And I would show it to people and they would cry. And when I had made them, I didn't realize that the way I was putting this experience out there in this tangible way was going to be the kind of thing that helped other people to realize that they had trauma they didn't know they had, and to start breaking it down to deal with it. And people would say to me after looking at these books and having that experience, they'd say, wow, I didn't realize that I was dealing with some shit, and now I am. And like, I am not the same person I was 5 minutes ago before I had that experience. And not only making these books to heal myself, but using my artwork to heal other people, I was like, what else is there in life, than to be able to help people figure out how to keep walking forward when they didn't know how to do that before, or to help them figure out how to be a better person for themselves, or to be happier with the fact that they are alive. Because there's a lot of people who are just not that happy about the fact that they're alive. So making artwork like that and sharing it with people was the miracle that saved me when I literally had nothing. And I've really focused my entire artistic creative career since then, the last 20 years, on intentionally crafting those moments for people, that to help people have those conversations that are really hard to have, or say things they don't really know how to say, to put those apologies out there that they don't know how to start apologizing for, and things like that. So like, yes, do I make fancy books and cards and stuff like that? Sure. But at the heart of everything that I do is like fostering that communication for people and helping people to connect with other people. And like you were saying, bring families back together. That's really at the heart of everything that I do. And I started this show for that sole purpose during COVID, where so many people were feeling like they were the only ones struggling because they didn't have any of that face-to-face connection, and everything was online and everything was text messages and FaceTime or whatever. And I really felt this need, like there was this void of space to have people connect with people. And so I started this show and I was like, I have no idea if anyone is ever going to listen to it or if anyone is ever going to watch the video, but I put it out there because it might be somebody scrolling through YouTube, you know, feeling very alone in their apartment, whatever, and they happen upon this video and hearing you say something about smash the box, like that's their moment.
That's what it's about. It's about, you know, picking these little things up and, you know, saying them no matter what. I'm very loud. I'm very aggressive sometimes when I'm talking, when I do public speaking, because I'm grabbing your attention. I want you to learn this stuff. You know, babies are born with two fears only. The fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's it. The rest of the fears we get through our caregivers growing up. You know, it's all about realizing who you are and realizing today. So, I was a friend of mine 8-10 years ago, and we're going through my mum's house, and we're just getting all the old photographs out. And he said to me, Rob, look at this, look at this. And he gets this old black and white photograph when we were like 16, 17. He said, oh my God, look how thin our waist was. Look how big our arm, because of our bodybuilders. Oh my God, we looked amazing. God, we were so handsome. Oh my. And he said, Bob, those were the days, weren't they? And you know what? I said, yeah, they were, but we didn't know they were the days then. We look back now and go, oh my God, we didn't know then. And then this is the question I ask everybody. What if today's one of those days? Why not make it one of those days that you can look back in 10 years time and go, I realized how good it was. I realized how handsome or how pretty I realized that I could change people's lives. Today's the day, whenever this airs, to start the life anew, these little things. And let me tell you from experience of all the years and patience that I've had, when you start doing this to other people, things come back to you. It always comes back to you. Well, somebody came for $5,000 about a year ago or so, and they needed it. They're desperate. We have a fund every year, 125, comes from the book, my book, and we add around 100,000 and we donate that to people who need it. But a guy come, all the money had gone, needed $5,000. He was like, oh my God, it's a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. So we gave him the $5,000. And the very next day, we had a tax rebate we never knew was coming for $83,000. So whenever you give, you receive. You'll never go broke by giving away to the right cause. And the other thing is, Spirit will put people in front of you at the right time, at the right place. Keep your eyes open, realize who you are and how much you can cram in today. And when you start realizing these people, you'll realize that you're blessing people. And that is life, believe it or not. That is life. There's nothing better than watching somebody's face when you can do something for them or give them something, you know, all the time. You watch that face. That's my paid in full, me. I don't get involved with the money side of the business. No way. I see people's change. I see families coming back because we work with families as well. We will not touch the patient if the wife or husband, anybody over 18 in that house does not come on board. It's a family recovery of any kind. It's a family disease, but it's a family recovery of any kind. And that's what it's about when you realize that you were put on this earth for a reason. But what's your niche in life? What's your niche? Find that, guys. Find that. Try lots of things and find that. If you're working with somebody now and they're only paying you $25,000 a year, start a side business. Think what you're passionate about. It might be guitar picks. Start looking at how you can make guitar picks. Buy 1,000 of them. Sell them online. Whatever it is, make a difference. Stand out from everybody else. I don't follow sheep. It's me. That's it. I always give my full name. I never sneak behind any 12-step meeting. My name's Robb Kelly. Don't do that shit. You know, I'm out there. Everyone knows who I am. And the only thing I want in life is to help people. And people think I'm crazy because when people get affluent or rich, they try and keep other people away. Not me. Come on, I'll show you exactly how I did it. I want you to be more successful than me because at the end of the day, I'm 61, guys. I've not got, another 100 years left. So the more people I can help, that when I finally die, people will go, you know what? He was a good guy. That's all I wanted. I don't want anything else. The rest just comes because I'm doing the right things. Say, changing people's day. You can do it every single day. You watch your own life take off. And the other thing you got to be careful, especially us, is being that rescuer. You know, it's okay being the rescuer, and we're pretty good at it. But who's looking after us? Who's looking after me? You know, remember what they used to say about the airplane mask when the oxygen came down? Put it in yourself first before you help the child. It's the same thing. Whatever you're doing, make yourself first priority. Eat good. You know, get 20 minutes exercise. So there's four. There's the endorphins, get to the gym, walk around 20 minutes. There's dopamine, it's a reward system, say thank you or compliment people. Serotonin, which is our social belonging, get out, meet people, go to the mall, whatever you've got to do, get plenty of sunlight. And last but not least, oxytocin, which is our bonding, you know, cuddling, hugging people, being intimate, not sex, being intimate with somebody else. The four chemicals are flowing. It's impossible to be depressed. Okay. But the first thing we do when we get depressed, the world and the pharmaceutical companies have got us running to the doctor. Oh, I'm depressed. The doctor goes, oh, okay, I'll give you this SSR. Nobody knows what SSR means. So they start taking it. A few weeks later, they feel bad. Okay. The reason why he's give you them is because you're low on serotonin. So our question we started asking is, why was your serotonin low in the first place? What's going on? What are you not doing for yourself that would have saved that trip to the doctor and on more medication? You know, unless it's bipolar or clinical depressions, we cause it, that need meds, and the chemical imbalance, of course, make sure they get sorted out by 9 out of 10 times. Look at yourself. What are you not doing that you need to do? You've got to look after yourself all the time. You've got to do it.
Yeah, it's especially with the way that our society is for so many mothers. Like you were saying, like, put on your own mask before you help a kid. Every single mother is like, everything about that feels so wrong, to take care of yourself before you help your kid. And I remember like hearing that on an airplane when I was younger and being like, oh, that's weird. Why, you know, like, why would that be so difficult? And, you know, like once I became a mother, I was like, oh, I totally see why that's really difficult. So I'm glad that you're kind of out there saying like, this is a thing, like you really have to do it. It's like it's a medical need to take care of yourself. I don't want to run out of time. At the end of all of our episodes, we do kind of like a lightning round with the 5 questions. So it's 5-question time because I don't want to.
Brilliant.
Question number 1, tell me about a single experience or a single moment that changed and shaped who you are today.
Definitely meeting John. The guy's name was John in that 12-step main. Going back to his house, spending all that time with him, never been able to trace him, changed my whole life on what we can achieve, what we think we can achieve.
Oh, magical John, wherever that energy may be. I wonder who John is changing today. He's out there. Number 2, when you feel defeated or overcome, what do you tell yourself to keep going?
I tell myself that you've been through everything else that you have to been through, and this will not last. That's what I tell myself when I go down there. And the biggest one I tell myself, I ask myself is, what was my part in that? What was my part in that deal? Well, I didn't do this, or I said this, or, you know, just look, there's a reason for everything every single day. Find out what it is and move on.
Love it. Okay. Number 3, tell me about a way that you overcame a failure or a mistake. I know you already talked about a lot of this, but something else.
I think going back to the homelessness, that's kind of one of those things. But I've failed at a lot of things, guys. You know, I failed at some businesses. I failed with some patients. You know, I mean, it just happens. But the way I look at it is, it's experience. We never lose, really. Look at the Beatles. They took, I don't know, 18, 19 auditions with record companies, and most of them said, you'll never make a hit record in your life. You know, it's just about knowing your worth, moving forward, and learning from that experience.
Exactly. Okay. Number 4, what one trait or habit is most responsible for keeping you on track?
I'd say my daily routine that I have in the morning when I get up, which is my mirror work, which is I love you about 10 times, storing the subconscious brain. And then stand in front of the mirror and say, today's going to be a great day. And then I do my breath work. So breath work is very important. Most people live in hypoxic state, which means they only take in 25% of their lung capacity. So here's the deal. and this is a great statement, comes from my friend Gary Brecker, who's a micro hacker, is when oxygen is present, no illnesses or diseases can grow any further. So if you have cancer and you start breathing properly, that cancer will never grow, never, ever grow while oxygen is present. So I make sure I do my oxygen every single day and the rest of the stuff, and then I'm off for the day.
Awesome. That sounds awesome. I'm going to start doing that. Okay. Number 5. What is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? And what advice would you give other people?
Never give up. Okay. Never give up your dream. Always chase it. I was estranged from my daughter for I think it's 30 something years. I can't remember. And I always knew one day, just one day, and 2 years ago, she contacted me on Facebook Messenger in the middle of the night here, flew back home, held my 3-month-old granddaughter. And today she's my lead therapist in my Manchester, UK office. So never give up. Always know that whatever you're going through is temporary, and God, universe, spirit, Uncle Jimmy has a plan for you. Every single one of us, he has a plan for. So stick in there. And if you want to be a leader, start dressing, acting, speaking like a leader, and the next will come. The next step will come. Because it's this, not the voice. The voice will take us down in 2 seconds. Like, if you be careful what you say to yourself. I drop a pen on the floor. Oh, what an idiot. Stop that. Stop that, because you're telling yourself. And you know when that you're an idiot will come to the prefrontal cortex is when you're going for that job, that car, that girl, or that house.
Oh, man. Why can't I have this conversation every day?
I know, right? Boom.
Oh, it's awesome. That's awesome. But in our last couple minutes, will you tell everyone where they can find you online and reach out to you?
Of course, Dr. Robb Kelly in any search engine. I spell my name with 2 B's, ROBBKELLY.com is the website. Jump on there. There's a few things. You can buy the book there. Every cent of that book, not after profit, every cent of that book goes out to people who need it. If you don't like it when you buy it, text me. I'll send you your money back. Give it to somebody else. That's all I ask. And there's lots of fun stuff on there. There's speaking gigs and everything. There's also a special button on there that will take you straight through to the office. But I want to add this, guys. If you're at home, if you're in that place we talked about of not knowing you're going to be any good, of being in that depressive state where you don't think there's a way out, 214-600-0210. That's my personal cell phone number. You won't come through the company, secretary, assistant. You'll come straight to me. Text me first. I'll give you a 10-minute pep talk that will change your life. And if it doesn't, for whatever reason, never happened yet, I will send you $100 for your time. Okay. So we're in the trenches here together, guys, and we're all going to step out the trenches together. So don't Google me before you call. You see all sorts of TV stuff and everything. Oh, I can't call him. Bullshit. This is me, the guy that sold his kids out for alcohol, the guy that stabbed his wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let him finish the bottle of vodka he had on the table. It's me. You call me. We'll get there together, guys. I promise you.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Dr. Robb, for being here on the Reach the Stars podcast. I'm your host, John Willoughby Lohr. Damn, feels good to be back. Hang out, check out our videos on YouTube. You can listen to it on all major podcast networks. And check them out. If you want to find all the episodes together, all the videos together, you can find them on reachthestarspodcast.com. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next month. Bye.
A single interaction has the power to change your life forever. This is a place for the stories of those moments. Stories of pursuing dreams, overcoming tragedy and failure, of coming back to life after so much of what feels like dying, of continuing on with only a vision as a map. This is the place where those moments live on. Come sit by the fire, look up at the stars, and be forever changed too.
Thank you for being with us on the Reach the Stars podcast. Our theme music is generously provided by Byrocratic. You can find him on bandcamp.com. Thank you to all of our current patrons, guests, and everyone else who helps make this dream a reality. We are so proud to be building this amazing community with all of you. If you love this podcast, please consider sharing with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes, and becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/reachthestars. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see the videos of these conversations. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, do something cool and tell us about it.